Welcome to the Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. We have to talk about some major NFL news and how it impacts the Miami Dolphins, because I think if you saw the news that have came out over the past couple of days and didn't think Miami could somehow be impacted by this, you're just a little bit naive. Now, you might be wondering what the news is, and if you weren't aware by our thumbnail, there are a couple big-time players that could be traded. And one of them is Micah Parsons, who has been in a contract dispute with the Dallas Cowboys as he's looking for a new deal, and they've been negotiating one all offseason long. It's been a really complicated issue to where the Joneses will not work with Micah Parsons' agent. Well, it's going to be hard to get a contract extension done if you can't do that. So he officially went to Twitter on Friday afternoon and requested a trade in maybe one of the longest notes app essays I have ever seen. It was egregious. Who's back of the week? Notes app. But that wasn't the only trade request that was made over the last 48 hours. In the NFC East, Commanders All-Pro wide receiver Terry McLaurin requested a trade. He has also been searching for a new contract by the Washington Commanders. He's been looking for about 32 mil, about what DK Metcalf got from the Steelers after he was traded from the Seahawks. The Commanders reportedly haven't offered more than 27. Wild move by the Commanders. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But I will say this, when you think of these two players requesting trades, they won't always be granted, and most of the times it ends up being resolved, and there ends up being a contract resolution. But these two players could very easily be joining the AFC East. Why? Well, because two teams in the AFC East have been linked to these two players already since the trade request has been announced. So this could be something that impacts Miami in a massive way by one of their rivals getting them. But also, we'll talk about at the end of the show, could Miami make a play for one of these two players? I reacted to both of these news requests and trade requests on social media. So if you want up-to-date reports on the Miami Dolphins, follow me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. We'll start with Micah Parsons' destinations because these are the four most likely teams that I envision potentially making a play for Micah Parsons if he ultimately is on the trade block, which the Cowboys said they have no intention of trading him. We'll see where it ultimately goes. But you see here, the New England Patriots and Buffalo Bills are on the list. Buffalo needs an edge rusher. They signed Joey Bosa, yeah, but they don't really have an elite pass rusher. New England is a team that has been searching for more defensive line help. They also have a ton of cap space and draft capital to potentially make a deal. But when you also look at Terry McLaurin destinations, well, guess what two teams show up on there again? The Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots. Now, this time, two AFC West teams join in the Raiders and Chargers, as opposed to two NFC North teams for Micah Parsons. But once again, I'll mention the Bills and Patriots are both very likely options as well, because when you think of what Buffalo's biggest need is, it's still wide receiver. I don't believe that Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and the rest of that hag-tag group can really be an elite weaponry for Josh Allen to get to the Super Bowl. And the Patriots haven't had a wide receiver one since what, Randy Moss? Like Julian Edelman was good, but really? That's your wide receiver one? So they've been always be searching for one. And I'll be honest, it's not great that if one of these two get traded, or if both of them get traded, I think it's extremely likely that one of them ultimately ends up going to the AFC East. Like, let's just say both McLaurin and Parsons are traded, which I find it highly unlikely that they both get traded. But if they both did, I would put a significant wager on one of them being a Patriot or Bill. Like, I just know how this works when it comes to the Dolphins and two teams that are desperate looking for upgrades at those positions. And the Patriots make the most sense for Terry McLaurin. They also make some sense for Micah Parsons. I briefly alluded to it a second ago. A new regime in New England. Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf is finally kicking up as their GM. They have still $60 million in cap space, so they could easily absorb Micah Parsons' contract and give him a massive extension. They could do the same thing for Terry McLaurin. Like, it just feels like New England is in play here for both of these guys. They have their rookie quarterback that they have a lot of faith in on that rookie contract for at least another 4 years. It makes sense for New England to maybe, if they believe Drake May's that guy, push their chips to the table and try to compete while Drake May's still under contract for a very minimal number. That is also why I think the Bills are less likely on both. Like if I had the power rank destinations for McLaurin and Micah Parsons, I would have New England above Buffalo for both of them because New England has way more cap space, has more draft capital, and to me can take in both of those players and extend them with relatively ease. So I don't think Buffalo is as likely as New England, but I certainly think they would be at least contacting Washington and Dallas respectively to see what it would require to get a trade done. They would definitely be more aggressive, in my opinion, looking at Terry McLaurin than they would Micah Parsons. I could also probably say the same thing for the New England Patriots. But make the call. Predict it for me. Will one of these two players, Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin, be traded to the AFC East? We're filming this late on Friday, and I'm just trying to get out of here, folks. Type Y for yes and type N for no. Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, I'm going to look at both players now, and I want to start with the wide receiver in Washington, Terry McLaurin, because I do think he ends up staying with the Commanders. I think they end up getting it done. And why? Because they have to. The Commanders just had the best season in their franchise, and I don't even know how long. And you're really going to turn around and not pay your wide receiver one who stuck it out with you when you were absolutely dog shit, playing with terrible quarterbacks like Alex Smith with not even one leg? Like, I just feel like this feels like a dumb situation for Washington not to pay him. When it comes to McLaurin, I think the Patriots are the top spot in the entire National Football League. They can offer a second-round pick and one of their youngish veteran wide receiver combos, like a Jalen Polk, the second-rounder from a year ago, Kendrick Bourne in a second for McLaurin. That's a pretty solid package. And now you would have in New England, potentially, Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs with Drake May. Not ideal as a Dolphins fan here, looking at them when you have a pretty poor secondary. So when I think of McLaurin, I do think of New England, but as I mentioned, I do believe he stays in Washington because I just have a hard time believing they're going to let their wide receiver one go, especially losing that wide receiver for their second-year ascending quarterback, Jane Daniels. Are they really going to rock with Deebo Samuel as wide receiver one? I don't know about that one, Jim. I wouldn't be happy with him in the division, that's for sure. As I just briefly mentioned, like we're going to have to play him, twice a year? We also got to play him this year regardless, it seems like, because Miami does play Washington in Week 9. Is it Week 10? I don't know. Week 9 or Week 10. Close enough. I think it's Week 10. Hard to really keep track nowadays, but I don't want to play him twice. That's all I'm going to say. It would make things a lot more difficult for Miami. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel because not only do we cover news on the Dolphins every day, but we cover NFL news and how it could potentially impact Miami. And I'll tell you what, if one of these two players ends up getting dealt to the Bills or Patriots, we will certainly be making a video about that and reacting. So join the channel today for top-notch Dolphins coverage. Let's segue over to Micah Parsons now because I feel like he might be traded more likely than Terry McLaurin, which is crazy to say. And as I briefly mentioned earlier, Micah Parsons wrote the longest essay on the Notes app and posted it on social media that I've ever seen. And some of the verbiage and language he used, it just feels like a relationship that is so fractured, it is beyond repair. Now, the Cowboys did say they have no intention of trading Micah Parsons. Micah will not be leaving Cowboys training camp. He doesn't want to be fined. So maybe they end up working something out. I don't know. But the way Micah was talking about it in his social media post, that thing sounds ugly. Now, will the Patriots or Bills make a move for Parsons? I don't know. I briefly mentioned it. I think McLaurin is more likely to go to Buffalo or New England than Micah Parsons. But this would be brutal if he was in our division. I mean, we're talking about a top 5 defensive player in the entire NFL. He's been top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting in the last 3 seasons, in the first 3 seasons of his career. No other player, I think, has ever done that. Maybe one other. I don't know. I saw the tweet. Forgot if it was one or he was the first. But Micah is, simply put, an elite defender and one of the best in the entire NFL that just generates sacks and pressures at an insane rate. And then I'll say this too. Once again, the Patriots are more likely in potentially making this type of move. Why? I keep on going back to that cap space. I think Buffalo actually has the least amount of cap space in the entire National Football League as things currently sit on Friday, August 1st when we're filming this. New England, I think, has the highest at $60 million. So If you're thinking of one of those two teams making a move, it's probably going to be the Patriots because they might be the most aggressive to upgrade their roster. They have the money to pay and take in the contract, as well as a lot of draft capital to get a deal done. But coming up in just 1 second, I'll round out the show by taking a look on if the Dolphins could make a trade for one of these two players. So stay tuned for that. But I did want to show this hoodie, which is on sale for $37, which is, quick math, $32 off its original price at $69. All you got to do is go to chatsports.com/MIA hoodie. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage. Sizes still in stock. I don't know how much longer. Go grab yours now. If I had to project which one out of the two players we've talked about today is more likely for Miami to go out and trade for, I think without a shadow of doubt, it would be Micah Parsons due to his age and still as an ascending player. He's 26 years old. He's a top 5 defender in football. And when you look at Terry McLaurin, he's about to be 30 years old. I do not think Miami would be in the business of trading for a 30-year-old and then paying them big money, because we've seen them do that with Jalen Ramsey, with Bradley Chubb, with Tyreek Hill. And how has it worked out for them? Not very good. I think they've learned their lesson. But Micah Parsons at age 26 is a little bit of a different story. You might also push back on me and say, well, we don't need another edge rusher. We have one of the best edge trios in football. I completely agree. I'm not going to disband that thought. Chop, Jalen, and Bradley Chubb is as elite as it gets at the edge position, and you do not need another pass rusher at a severe rate. But this is not just for this season, folks. This would be for the next 5 to 6 seasons. I can't even fathom how good a pass rush combination Chop Robinson and Micah Parsons would be. I believe they both played together at Penn State. I don't know if those timelines added up. It might have crossed over when Chop was a true freshman and Parsons was in his final year. But either way, we're talking about two of the most freak athletes in the entire National Football League at their respective sizes that get after the quarterback. Those two would be your pass rush duo of the next 5-6 years. It would be the best pass rush duo in football, in my opinion. I don't think it's a hot take to say that. That's how much I believe in Chop Robinson, and it's not hard to do that when you have a top 5 edge rusher, as I've consistently mentioned on this show, in Micah Parsons. So this is a long-term play, and then you could keep one of Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb as that third edge rusher. And that kind of is where I want to go here next. If the Dolphins did make a trade for Micah Parsons, what would it potentially look like? This is the trade idea I came up with. Now, this is a pretty big deal, but Micah Parsons is absolutely worth it. I think Miami getting Parsons and a 4th-round pick in return would justify Miami sending out Jalen Phillips and a 1st-round pick plus a 5th-round selection in this upcoming draft. You ask yourselves, would it be worth it for Miami? It's a tough one, but Phillips is in the last year of his deal. The Cowboys may be looking to get a solid edge rusher in return so they can stay competitive. Jalen Phillips could fill that void. Bradley Chubb's still your 3rd guy. You just send a 1st-round pick. It's going to cost 1 or 2 first-rounders, but you might be able to offset the 2 first-round costs by including Jalen Phillips, which is something, if you are trading for Micah Parsons, I would be willing to do, because once again, if you trade for Micah, you're not going to pay Micah and also pay Jalen Phillips. So you might as well trade Jalen Phillips for Micah Parsons if you were going to do a deal. And before we round out the show, let me know your thoughts. Would you trade for Micah Parsons? If you would, type T for trade. If you are saying no in passing, type your P's. I'll be honest, Dolphins fans. I'm going to type my P's. And I've been very complimentary of Micah Parsons in this show. But the truth is, we need our future. And I don't think the Dolphins are a Micah Parsons away from winning a Super Bowl. And I would rather just keep my future. Maybe you could become, with the addition of Micah Parsons, a no-doubt playoff team. And I think that would actually probably be the case. But are we trying to win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, or are we trying to just be a competitive first-round exit football team? We did that in 2 of the last 3 years. I'm not trying to do that. So I'll be honest, the best way for this team to get closer to the Super Bowl is holding on to its own draft capital, drafting right, using those players on rookie contracts, and then keeping your homegrown talent in-house by paying them. So I am keeping my draft picks, I'm keeping Jalen Phillips, and passing on a trade for Micah Parsons although it would be very fun to see him and Chop Robinson work together for the next 5 to 6 years. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody watching here. Make sure you are subscribed for daily content as we're continuing to bring you almost 2 videos every single day. More training camp news and updates on the horizon as well. So join the channel and never miss a beat of Dolphins content.